Hello and welcome, my mages, to Sage of Fables. I think I'm accidentally kicking over a wine bottle or water bottle or something. Anyway, uh, I am super excited to be here to bring you all another video. Not a deck tech this week, but instead a discussion of something that is definitely a very fundamental part of Magic. The idea of mulliganing, of the process of drawing your opening hand, your opening hand of cards and deciding whether you're going to keep it or risk going lower in cards for potentially a better outcome. And so here to join me today is Ben, a fellow mod on the founder server with me, and friend and excellent brewer and what have you. Ben, what's up? How are you? You've been on here before, but for anyone who hasn't seen that video where we talked with you and Mikey about your Thrasios Fascios deck, talk about you and yourself and what you do in the world of Magic.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I had such a fun time last time, and I'm excited to be here again talking about one of the topics I am most passionate about, mulliganing. I like playing CDH. I play it quite a bit. I like more controlling decks generally, like Sandbag. I like talking about theory in terms of this format and a lot of the implications of four player. And definitely gonna be doing a lot of that today.
Yes, definitely. And it's definitely interesting because playing casual commander, like the rule that we have in our play group is that just like always keep seven, but you have to stop when you get, a hand with like three lands, or in like, or spells that you can cast. So it's kind casual partial Paris kind of sort of deal. But in competitive, that's obviously, while we don't always play competitive rules enforcement, we are, being strict to the mulligan rules is definitely really important, especially when when I feel like in a lot of games, turn order can decide who wins and who gets locked out, especially depending on what decks everyone is bringing to the table. So yeah, what about mulliganing in particular is like interesting, or what inspired you to really want to like talk more about this?
So I think that in my experience, in while playing with other people, nobody mulligans as much as me, and I still feel that I don't mulligan enough, which really tells me people aren't mulliganing enough.
Yeah.
And I still don't know the. It's impossible to know the exact threshold of where to mulligan, but I think it's really, really like high. You need to have a really good hand to not mulligan. And so we're gonna be talking about some of that today. And I think the point you bring up with casual in your play group is 100%. Like I agree. Like recently, I played a game with some of my friends, and I knew that my deck was on a higher power level, and I mulliganed a hand because it was just too fast, and I didn't want to throw my friends into an experience of just me killing them.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but in CDH, that's off the table. We're just trying to kill our opponents, and we get to all gas, no brakes.
We're here to go fast, and we're here to win, and there is definitely no holds bar, which is something that is what I honestly really love about CDH, is that there's none of that like that niceness. And it's not that there isn't a social contract, because there very much is, but it's the social contract is very different. And it's something that to me is a lot easier to grapple with than being like, oh, do I play a turn one Soul Ring? Because then everyone's gonna hate me at the table. And it's like, no, of course I'm gonna go, Mana Crypt Soul Ring, Felwar Stone Pass.
Oh yeah.
So
I
yeah.
mean, there's just everyone's on the same playing level, and you all have the same agreement that you're all trying to win.
And so with that in mind, of specifically in CDH and specifically in this multiplayer environment, why is it that you think that, or what has like clued you in to think that people aren't mulling enough?
I think part of it is that I frequently end up at like two, three cards and still end up winning that game, or 2 to 4 cards, and my hands are just so much better. And we'll go into a lot of reasons for that, but like my win rate, I attribute a large part of it to just mulliganing more aggressively than everyone else at the table.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me pull up these articles real quick. Blah, blah, blah. And so, yeah, so when you and Mikey approached me about this, because, yeah, a lot of people will keep, kind of meh hands, and especially like, playing in Founders or everything, and you notice, it's playing Dork Pass, which in some decks is good enough, but in a lot of decks, it's really not, especially considering how fast CDH is. When you're, regularly turning out 5, 6 mana, 7 mana by turn 2 or 3. And so just to, go Dork Pass is not going to cut it in most tables, especially not when you're facing like a bunch of like turbo ad nauseum decks who are looking to, power out a turn 1 or turn 2 ad nauseum, which is, a 5 mana spell, and then win, and then proceed to win. Yeah, it's, yeah, so I definitely agree with you there.
I think Mikey put it best when he said that someone was arguing that a hand was worth keeping, and he was trying to argue that it wasn't. And the other person said, "Here, we gotta go, like, turn 1 Dark, turn 2 Thrasios, turn 3 activate Thrasios." And Mikey was like, "Yeah, that hand is just not good enough. Activating Thrasios, you're drawing 1 card on turn 3 when other people are just powering out a turn 2 Adnaz, and you don't even have interaction for that Adnaz. That hand isn't actually getting you anywhere. Like, you're just depending on your opponents to answer each other, and you're still not even drawing the most cards at the table. So you're not even in the best situation if you're lucky enough that you don't die."
Right, yeah, especially you're looking at most games to probably end by turn 4. And if they're not, there's probably a stacks at the table. Or you all have spent a lot of interaction, in which case you need to make sure that you have those card advantage like engines in your hand, or are able to deploy them in order to take advantage of when a win attempt is stopped, or when someone removes a stacks piece. And so yeah, I just but so
Absolutely.
yeah, so looking at this, so looking at other people in the community, obviously other pros and stuff, have written about how, especially with the London Mulligan, that you really should be mulling more aggressively. And you pulled up that article by Frank Karsten. Is that his name?
Yeah, that's right. Frank Karsten, he's a mathematician who writes a few articles on Channel Fireball. He talked about how the Mulligan rule benefits strategies that rely on specific cards. So if you're a combo deck and you have card A and B that win you the game together, you don't need many other cards. That A and B wins you the game. Now, if you're a deck that requires a certain amount of density of a certain effect, now you might not want to mulligan as much. But in CDH, where you need to kill 3 opponents, almost every deck is running combos that rely on 2, 3 cards. And so we're all decks that fit into that first category, where we rely on few cards to win the game. So mulligan aggressively.
Yeah, so yeah, because he kind of breaks it down where there's like, yeah, cards or there are decks where you're looking to like assemble 2 to 3 pieces, and then there are decks where it's built about redundancy. Like he brings up Modern Burn as a really great example, where it's effectively like 16 lightning bolts in a deck and some lands. And so definitely like the mulling strategies for those 2 decks are very different, but definitely with CDH, where you're trying to, I think, not necessarily kill people out with value. I think it depends more on the deck, but it's an EDH in general is like a resource management game, and it's how effectively do you deploy and make use of them and disrupt your opponents. And so yeah, it's being able to know what you're looking for and to mull until you find them. And I think at some point you also just gotta have to have faith in your cards that they're gonna get you there. That those cards are that good and that powerful and can carry that much weight.
It comes down a large amount to card variance. So in the example of the modern burn deck, if you have a hand of 2 lands and 5 burn spells, if you mulligan, you'll just get another hand of 2 lands, 5 burn spells. Now you have to put one on the bottom. Like, there aren't other cards in your deck. There are only lands and burn spells. So the
Yeah.
variance there is so low that mulliganing doesn't achieve you anything unless you have the wrong ratio of lands and burn spells. But in CDH and any other combo decks in other formats, when you mulligan, you might just have a combo in hand. You might just win. So there's so much upside to mulliganing, and you can have a hand that just doesn't do much. You can have too much of one piece of the combo, too much of this, but you're too much of the filler in your deck. But instead, you could just mulligan into a combo or the more powerful cards in your deck. In CDH, there are some cards that are just so much better than other cards. You might be playing Ponder in your deck and also Remora. One of those cards is better.
Yeah, definitely. One of them will be, repeated card draw effect. Yeah, like Mystic Remora, Rhystic Study, Smothering Tithe, all of these just powerhouses that will just accrue you so much value, and pull you turns ahead of your opponents in either card or mana advantage.
I mean, the difference between having a hand that has, like, Remora, Crypt, Soul Ring, Rhystic, any of those cards, versus, like, any of your other cards, if you just have a bunch of interaction and stuff, that's not getting you anywhere. You need to have the powerful starts that those cards that are... there are some cards you just do not build a deck that isn't playing them. And the reason you're playing them is because they're that good. So mulligan and find those good cards.
Yeah, I definitely like the first 2 turns in CEDH are so important. It really sets it's turn 1 absolutely sets the tone for the rest of the game, because everyone is looking to lay down those pieces, and if you don't have them, then it's going to be pretty much impossible to catch up.
Those turn ones are what I mulligan for.
And so, but there is there are definitely decks that are built more along the lines of modern style burn decks, where it's like I had said, Joyra, Weatherlight Captain, where she's the one for 2 blue, red, 3/3, and whenever you cast a historic spell, so an artifact, a legendary, or a saga, you get to draw a card. So a Joyra deck is definitely built with in mind of running like 30 0 cost rocks of artifacts. And so mulling in a Joyra deck is going to be very much like mulling in a modern in a burn deck, where it's just you're going to get some lands and a bunch of 0-drop artifacts.
Yeah, I mean,
some are going to be more useful
what you
than
want to
others.
Be doing,
but...
Yeah, some of them are better, some of them are worse, but at the end of the day, what you want to be doing in Joyra is just play your Joyra and then play your rocks. It doesn't matter what they are, you just play them. And so that falls into that burn category. Very few CDH decks do, where you just need a critical density of cards, you don't even care which.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like it tends to lean towards decks that are lower in color, because also like Bergi or Orvar, who are mono red and mono blue, like they're just looking for that sort of critical mass of cantrips, or the critical mass of cards that say target a permanent. But when you have
100% agree.
When you have cards like Tymna and Crom in your command zone, like that is a completely different deck, either if they're paired with each other or paired with other partners. They just bring so much advantage, like immediately.
Yeah, those kinds of commanders do something very different, where they incentivize you to mull to fast mana. Because if I can make 5 mana on turn 1 and play Crom on turn 1, I'm gonna refill my hand with the cards that I spent making fast mana. So if I go land Lotus Petal, like, I am down 2 cards because I used them for fast mana. Those aren't even the rocks that I prefer. I prefer Mana Crypt that makes consistent mana. But
yeah.
I'm still going to draw more than 2 cards off Crom. I'm going to draw way more than that. So by getting that fast mana, I'm actually getting more cards. That Lotus Petal actually drew me 3 cards. Is basically what is going to happen.
Yeah, especially landing at turn 1, where everyone is being super greedy and just throwing down yeah, also trying to throw down mana rocks and Rhystic Studies and looking to double or triple spell, easily like an Ancestral Recall.
Absolutely.
Let me pull up the our document here. So yeah, it's definitely being mindful of the kind of deck that you're running, whether whether your deck is leaning towards redundancy or it's prioritizing higher overall card quality. I think definitely can give you a sense of how you should be mulling and looking for what sort of and giving you a signpost as what you should be mulling for. Especially, I mean, I definitely think having fast mana in your opening hand is 100% like a priority, regardless of what commander you play. Just because, a lot of decks are built around their commanders because they're looking to leverage that card advantage that commander brings.
I 100% agree. I like fast mana over anything else in my starting hands. Like, sometimes I'm going first, and I see a hand that's mediocre, but it has a turn 1 Remora, and I wonder, should I actually mulligan this? Because if someone has a misstep, I just lose.
Oh yeah, you're just
and so
fucked.
sometimes, like, even with that kind of hand that seems so good, it just loses so easily, and if there's 3 blue players, there's a good chance one of them has a misstep or is willing to spend a Force of Will on it. So,
Yeah.
in that situation, I much prefer having fast mana than that Remora. Obviously, you can have the best of both worlds and have both. That's mulliganing. You get so many options. Just you get to get so many more looks at that hand that has the really busted stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely like playing my Valky Tybalt Cosmic Imposter deck. One of the best hands that I could have in that deck is LED, Jeweled Lotus, and a land. Because that will allow me to drop Tybalt turn 1, and then I will immediately draw 4 cards and have this powerful value engine it's gonna ult in 2 turns. And with people playing, vampiric tutors and demonic tutors and everything in the first 2 turns, that is a winning hand. And so that's something that I've had to learn playing with that deck is absolutely being willing to multi 3, which is scary, but it's objectively the right call. And I think a lot of people have hesitancy because they want options, even if the options aren't good.
Like, I'll take a good 3 over a mediocre 7.
Yeah,
That's what people have to understand.
Like a good 3, with is just can be so much more powerful and so much more actionable. And I think with so many decks being on wheels, because with Breach being a very powerful card, or with capitalizing on wheels and Hull Breacher, the likelihood that you're going to get wheeled in the first couple turns is really high. And so I feel like there's much less risk going lower because your hand is probably going to get filled up.
I mean, I've multi 4 before, and then I kept my hand of I kept the 4, and it was Gemstone Caverns, exile another one of the cards, Time Twister, and Mana Crypt. So I get to Time Twister with my land drop floating on turn 1. That hand is better than every other 7 I saw before that 4. That 4 was amazing. So, I don't know, mulligan more. I'm gonna sound like a broken record.
For sure. Just drill it into heads. So I think with that though, it's sort of like the psychology of like mulliganing though. I feel like a lot of people sort of get lost in the sort of the hindsight bias of, you get a first 7 and it's okay. You can maybe play a thing or 2, but it's not impressive. Maybe you're missing a tutor to go get like a, one part of your combo or something like that. And so, they'll mull that, which is, the correct choice. But then they'll get their second 7 and it's shit. It's got no lands or it's, or whatever. And they're like, and everyone always says, and I'm so guilty of it too, I should have kept the first 7.
Yeah, I mean, we've all been there. We understand how it feels. It sucks to have a really good, to have a mediocre, not really good, a mediocre 7, and then get an unplayable 7, 6, 5, and now you're at 4. feels worse.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, just because you got a worse hand does not mean that the mulligan was incorrect. That is a hindsight bias, based on knowing what the outcome was. When you make a decision, you don't get to know what the outcome is. What you made the right choice, even if it didn't work.
Yeah, and that's I think also like in that kind of thinking also applies to like how you think about your win conditions, because like for most win conditions, or like for a major win condition, a lot of decks is ad nauseum. You know, it's that card is going to get you, you know, the cards that will actually close the game, but it is the thing that is winning you the game. And it might not pay off, but it is the winning play. And so making, you know, and with that, like with mulling, there is the risk that it might not pay off because, you know, we are playing a singleton format, and variance is pretty high. And you know, depending on how much you're shuffling or whether your cards are sticky and all these things, it might not pay off to mull more, but it is still correct to keep doing it in order to try, because the odds are just absolutely in your favor.
I mean, similarly, you also can't use confirmation bias and
Mm,
say, "Oh, last game it didn't pay off for me to mulligan, so this time I can't mulligan." You don't get to know the results on when you mulligan, and you shouldn't be swayed by past poor performances until you have a large sample size.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Although I'm kind of the opposite. I'm like, I'm mulling the fourth. That means I'm winning this game.
What you have to do is hang your head high and just try to intimidate your opponents with your three-card hands. And
Hmm.
jokingly, they'll you're like, I'm gonna crush you with this three-card hands as you're shuffling your deck about to draw your seven. And if you do that every time, they'll never know when your three is actually super busted.
True. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's something that I absolutely miss about playing Commander in person is the being able to read facial expressions, because you don't always get to do that over spell table. People don't have like face cams on or whatever. Um, but yeah, just you gotta fake it till you make it.
Absolutely.
And so I get.
Um,
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you.
So I think one of the really important things with your seven is to just look at the sequence of your hands and try to make sure how impactful turns your first two turns are. You want to make sure that you're doing something extremely powerful, extremely powerful, extremely interactive on turn two, so that you get to have a turn three, or you make sure your opponents don't have a turn three.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's the most important thing. Just see that your hand is doing something good. If it doesn't actually have a line to do something powerful, find the hand that does.
Yeah, that's definitely something I always like to do is, you know, and like I think a lot of people can get really self-conscious about how much time it takes to shuffle and everything, but I swear to God, no one cares. No one cares. Just take your time. We everyone at the table would rather have interesting, interactive game than one where you're like trying to rush through. You keep a shitty hand, and then like you don't have the interaction to stop someone or something like that. And so just like slow down. It's fine. Take a moment to be like, all right, turn one, I play this, this, and this, and then where do I go from there? I think, uh, yeah, really, really helps, and helps you get prepared to like to go into the game with a plan.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think the next thing is uh, this one can be a little bit hard to visualize, but in a game with four people total, you need a better hand than and you need a game with two people. And I'll explain a little bit why. Let's. I'm kind of going to oversimplify this game a little bit in this example, but let's just pretend that the person with the best hand always wins. That's not the case, but we're going to just simplify it to that. If I'm in a two-player game, I need a hand that is better than one other person, and I win the game. But when you're in a four-player game, you need a hand that is better than three other people. And so you're going to need to have a better hand to beat those three other people. So if you want a better hand than them, you're gonna have to try harder. Is really what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was doing some math on this, and I'll make sure to post it in the comments when it's available. Um, but you're gonna need to mulligan more with three other people than with one other person because you have three other people that can beat you. So you need to try harder.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think like if you especially in the meta now where you're likely to have like one person tries to Nas, you stop them, next person's gonna try to Nas, and it's how how much interaction can you expect at the table looking at looking around at the commanders that people have revealed, and then how can you mull for that, or mull to be prepared or to leverage that against them.
Yeah, it's hard. You need to figure out exactly how to get everything to line up.
Mm-hmm. It's actually there's this really neat chart that I really appreciate that Karsten included in his article. That let me pull it up real quick. Ba-ba-ba. So, whoops, that's not the one. That's not the thing I meant to click. There we go. And so it's this was like right after the London Mulligan was announced to be the new Mulligan moving forward, and it's looking at the Vancouver probability of good opening hand and the probability of a good opening hand with the London Mulligan. And this was looking at having, if you took a pretty typical modern combo deck, which has like 20 lands, 8 copies of combo A piece, 8 copies of combo B piece, and 24 other spells. And if we take that, it obviously doesn't, translate directly to CDH, but if you make it 30 lands, and if you count your tutors as copies of combo piece A and B, and then add in like 10 extra spells, that's pretty much a CEDH deck. And so looking at like the probability of getting an opening hand of always keeping your first 7 is at like 26.25%. That's garbage. But then you go to and then we also get the benefit of going to an additional 7, which he doesn't have a line for there, but willing to mull a 6, it immediately jumps to 45, and then willing to mull a 5 is almost 60%, and then if you're willing to mull a 4, that's just over 70% chance of a good opening hand. That's so good.
Yeah, I mean, if you add on the percent chance of with the extra 7, it's like way above 70%. You're in a really good spot to find the cards you need.
Yeah, I'm sure it's probably around like 80 or 85 probably.
Probably. I'd have to do the math myself. The thing I want to bring up most about this chart is that if you look on the left side of the card, that's with the Vancouver Mulligan. Look at how trash the willing to mull to 4 on the Vancouver Mulligan is compared to the London Mulligan.
And that's the thing,
it's like 45% versus 70%.
And because for the Vancouver Mulligan, you got to each time you mulled, you went down a card, and then after deciding to keep, then you got to scry. And
you scry 1.
Yeah, which I also felt was bad. I always felt like, why isn't it scry X, where X is the difference between what you kept in 7? That's probably too complicated.
I suppose.
And it's like the scry, because first of all, you have to decide to keep, and so you don't get that scrying information until you've decided this is the hand that I'm keeping. And so switching from that to getting a full 7 and then sculpting your hand is so powerful. And it shows by a difference of 26% basically of like how much more likely you are to get a good hand. And so like you should be
Mulligan rule. Sorry, continue.
I know, but like people should be taking advantage of that.
Yeah, with the old Mulligan rule, you'd see fewer and fewer cards with each Mulligan. This Mulligan rule, you see the same amount, and you keep the best cards. So in a 7, there's probably a card that isn't actually doing anything. You're just not going to get the time to cast it or something like that in the sequencing. Mm-hmm. And so you can lose it and not really lose anything. lose any percentage points or anything. So when you mulligan, you get to see so many cards, and the more you mulligan, the bigger advantage you have between this mulligan rule and the previous mulligan rule. Like 26%, you only get it if you're willing to mull to 4.
Yeah. Yeah, but if you always go for your first or second 7, it's gonna be about the same, and it's gonna feel about the same. Then that's because mathematically it is. It's not a huge difference. You have to, you have to be willing to go deeper in order to find and get a payoff for that advantage.
Yeah, it's as simple as that.
Yeah, gotta risk it for the biscuit.
That's right.
Yeah, and I have personally have seen you do some absurd things with getting to take advantage of being able to put things on the bottom, like a Thassa's Oracle that you can like Tainted Pact for, and then oh look, you have no cards in your library because Thassa's Oracle's on the bottom. Like, that's also crazy.
Yeah, one of my favorite hands to keep. This one's the really, really fun one. You keep lands, Demonic Consultation, Lion's Eye Diamond, and then you put Thassa's Oracle on the bottom. Then you play lands, LED, Demonic Consultation, crack LED for 3 blue on the stack. Name Thassa's Oracle. You exile your whole deck and play Thassa's Oracle, and you one off a mull to 3.
Bananas. Absolute bananas.
I've done that one. I've done some really similar ones. Or if you want the really special one, I did a similar thing where except I end step the Demonic Consultation because I needed time to play a second land. And then I lost to Eric using Whim of Volrath to make my lands not an island.
Oh, Whim of Volrath, CDH All-Star.
Yeah. I did not play around the Whim of Volrath.
Yeah. This card.
I could have too. I could have.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Depending on
which land I played. I played it under round C, which has the type island, so he could change it. If I played something like a Morphic Pool, he wouldn't have been able to change it.
Yeah, because it has to have the land types on it. Yeah. Such a weird card.
Yeah, absolutely.
Orvar's full of cards that every time I'm like, what does this actually do? I don't know. It doesn't actually matter. What it says is target a permanent.
99% of the time.
So weird. Yeah, I think with that, I know a deck that you've been playing a lot recently is your Malcom Tymna deck, which is that deck is absurd. I'm definitely after the MLC and definitely going to proxy up and try my hand at it because it just does some ridiculous shit. It's all stormy, so of course I'm a big fan. But looking at that, let's look at some mulligans for this deck and talk about why you would keep them, why you would throw them away, what you would bottom. And let's say we can go with like the example of like you probably are facing Tymna Crom, probably a Kenrith, and I don't know, throw out another commander out there that you would probably see at a table or another deck.
Mikey likes to play a Nala or Evolution.
Nala.
One of those two.
Yeah. We'll say Evolution. So we have so he's going up against Blue Farm, a Kenrith deck, and an Evolution deck. So looking at this first hand, we have Godless Shrine, Scalding Tarn, Mystic Remora, Sea of Clouds, Phantasmal Image, Esper Sentinel, and Mind's Desire. So it does have that opening fish, but
this hand definitely depends on turn order, because I'd like to drop that Remora early. But now, first thing I want to point out with this hand is that if it was a 5-card hand, it's about equally as good. I don't know that it's worse at all. You bottom Mind's Desire in another land, you don't need more. Like, you're going to draw them off. Like, even on 4 cards, this hand's almost as good as it currently is. Which is kind of crazy. I'd probably keep this hand based on the Mystic Remora, Esper Sentinel, Fimage, and lands. The Fimage is probably trying to copy a Dockside so that we're not falling behind on mana. So this is actually a 7 I'm fairly likely to keep. but it depends on my turn order. Probably if I'm going first or second, I keep it. Otherwise, I mulligan it.
Yeah, so yeah, say if you're turn 4, then you would probably want to mull this.
I think I think that's let's. If I'm going last, yeah, I definitely mulligan this. This is too slow.
All right. All right.
So let's pretend that we mulligan it and we're going to six because we're going last.
All right.
Um,
So
One thing I should mention about this deck is that one of the things I value extremely highly, I try to do it every single game, is play Malcolm on turn one.
why is that?
This deck needs a lot of mana, and if I am playing Malcolm on turn one, it means I have 3 mana for Malcolm, unless I use Lotus, but I prefer to not to. Um, and then I get 1 mana per turn the game goes. And this deck is very mana hungry and will be able to use all of that mana to its advantage.
So I guess kind of in a nutshell, real quick, what is this like Tymna Malcolm like game plan? Because I know I've seen a lot of Tymna Malcolms where they're looking to be stacksy or they're looking to be more mid range. What flavor would you say yours is?
So mine's pretty fast. I'm running a lot of fast mana. I like fast mana while in mulliganing, so I like fast mana when deck building.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to play Malcolm on turn one. I can go into a longer game by playing Tymna on turn two. And then after that, what I'm trying to do is just bide my time until I find my exact spot I want to go off. And it means that one of the best cards in the deck is Emergence Zone. Just being able to go off on top of people, or the deck is extremely good at sandbagging. It is maybe the best deck at sandbagging I can think of. You you just set up, you get your win very easily. You're in Esper color, you're in blue black, like you have
Mm-hmm.
good combos, and then you
Yeah.
just bide your time. And the deck is extremely dynamic, is how I would say it.
Yeah, definitely. God, you played on mental misplay with me like about a month ago, and I think you made like what's that card called? Where you make your pile of like 5 cards. Doomsday?
Doomsday, yeah.
Oh my god! I was like, what is happening? With the mind's desire to win in a Doomsday pile,
I
my mind
remember
was
that one.
blown.
That was my favorite Doomsday pile I ever made. So because I used Malcolm that entire game, I had so much extra mana that I didn't need, and so I made a Doomsday pile that was Thassa's Oracle and 4 counterspells, including I think it was Silence and 3 counterspells. And then I just to crack my Doomsday pile, I cast Mind's Desire, exiling the entire pile.
Oh my god, absurd! I couldn't believe it. I was like, I was screaming.
I
Oh
will
man,
admit that when I played on that stream, I got to do a lot of really flashy plays and that were really really good. Like
yeah.
another game I played Malcolm and Tymna on turn one by cracking LED. And so I had 0
Oh
cards in
yeah,
hand, but I immediately drew 3 cards, one for turn and hitting 2 people.
yeah.
And then I later won. I think I mean I won both of those games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think and I think what else we were playing? I was playing Orvar. That deck, despite being mono blue, it's not a heavily interactive deck. And then it was like Rionia, who is mono red, so it's like definitely not interacting. And I can't remember what Sean was playing, but yeah, we just had nothing to stop you, because yeah, I don't think they mull. Definitely don't mull as aggressively. But yeah, super cool deck. I will definitely be including the link to Ben's deck list in the show notes, so you all should definitely look at this. It's very very cool, very spicy. But yes, we are taking this second seven, basically pretending we're going last in this imaginary pod, and so our second seven is Felwar Stone, Enlightened Tutor, Dispel, Ranger Captain of Eos, and Underground River, Demonic Tutor, and Windfall. Ugh.
So this hand is extremely slow. Even if we could draw like the exact card we want off the top, like it's still like meh.
Yeah.
Like I'd have to draw Crypt to be for this hand to be even playable, and that's
And
probably
even
not
then,
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I guess it's turn one Malcolm and I don't know. Or
I
you could turn one Windfall. I don't know.
Yeah, it's really awkward because it's like you have the demonic tutor, but then you also have the windfall. So it's like, okay, well you can tutor, but then are you gonna windfall? Like, yeah,
The
yeah,
fact that we're arguing about a hand that's if you draw Crypt off the top, like that, this hand is unkeepable. We don't have mana, and I need mana.
yeah. All right, so we're going to
So let's
6.
go to our 6.
So we have Mental Misstep, Grand Abolisher. Oh wait, there's like one land. Grand Abolisher, Praetor's Grasp, Force of Will, Phantasmal Image, Polluted Delta, and a Miscast.
I would say the exact same things about this hand. Here, this hand we need Phantasmal Image to copy Dockside, but even then, it's not even a good hand. So
Yeah.
let's go to 5.
Uh, All right, so we have Chain of Vapor, Spire of Ministry, Doomsday. Oh, this hand is. Doomsday, Underground Sea, Underground River, Culling the Weak, and Morphic Pool.
This hand again too slow. What are we doing? Playing turn 1 Malcolm, or sorry, turn 3 Malcolm into
Yeah.
Doomsday and turn 4. It's just too slow. We
It,
can't keep
yeah.
this kind of hands. We need our fast mana, and we have not seen any in any hands so far.
Yeah, so yeah, and like not even that, but like this hand doesn't even have interaction to deal with the other 3 players at the table either. Even if you couldn't turbo out a turn 1 Malcolm.
Yeah, let's go to 4.
4, we've got Marsh Flats, Esper Sentinel, Grim Monolith, Flusterstorm. Oh, this is looking much better. Flusterstorm, Wishclaw Talisman, Vampiric Tutor, and Emergent Zone.
So I see this hand now. I'm thinking, okay, I have options. I have 4 cards. One of them is going to be Marsh Flats for sure.
Yeah.
One of them is almost certainly Vampiric Tutor. For Crypt probably. So you can play turn 2 Malcolm, and if we draw a land, you could have like Flusterstorm up. We're probably keeping Esper Sentinel to refill our hand.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be those. It could be lands, Esper Sentinel, Vampiric Tutor, Grim Monolith, or Wishclaw, or Flusterstorm. But we have a few options here, and we get to do some powerful things. And if we play Esper Sentinel, we'll be able to draw a few cards.
Mm-hmm.
Like I actually prefer this hand to several of the other hands we've seen.
Yeah. So you go. Would you do like turn 1 Marsh? Well, let's see if you're going last.
Yeah, if we're going last, we are low, so we can probably we probably just play turn 1 Esper Sentinel and then turn 2. Well, if we draw a land on turn 1, we can turn 1 Esper Sentinel, turn 2 Vampiric Tutor for Crypt, play Malcolm on turn 2.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good. But we're really going to depend on this Esper Sentinel. Remember that, like, under this scenario, we're going last. Because otherwise we would have kept our first 7. We got pretty lucky that our first 7 was pretty good. So I'm fine with keeping that.
Yeah, I mean, like, even going 4 cards of, like, Marsh Flats, Esper Sentinel, Vampiric Tutor, and maybe... Yeah, either probably Wishclaw or Flusterstorm or Grim Monolith. I mean, either way, like, that's...
Flusterstorm.
Yeah, Wishclaw or Flusterstorm. Like, that's still a really actionable hand that can get you places. And it definitely would be a 4. You know, that's definitely better than the second 7, the 6, and the 5. By far.
Yeah, this 4-card hand is better than all of them but our first 7.
Yeah. Alright, and let's see.
Alright, so let's go back to 7. Yeah.
Alright, so we have Underground Sea, Peer into the Abyss, Arcane Signet, Flooded Strand, Chrome Mox, Morphic Pool, Grim Monolith.
So this hand's interesting. We really need to get to Peer mana is the thing. So if we go... We don't have a card to pitch the Chrome Mox, which is kind of awkward.
That's true.
So we could... let's look at this hand under the assumption we draw a card that we can pitch to Chrome Mox.
Yeah.
You could go turn 1 Grim Monolith, and turn 2 you have 6 mana, so this is a turn 3 period to the Abyss.
Yeah. With probably no backup. Or at least not.
Yeah. I prefer most hands that play turn 1 Malcolm to this hand.
Yeah.
So this hand is a little appealing in that it's a turn 3 period to the Abyss, but I don't like that. There's a good chance that there's going to be a Hull Breacher out at that time.
A good chance to get
This is
swatted
too fragile.
or fierce. Yeah, I would not keep this hand.
Yeah.
All right,
So let's go
so
to second 7.
ooh, all right. So we've got Adnaz, Cephalid Coliseum, Emergence Zone, Talisman of Dominance, Mind's Desire, Gemstone, and a Mox Diamond.
Yeah, this is great. Let's keep this. I mean, we bottom probably Mind's Desire or lands. No, we bottom Mind's Desire, then we Gemstone Caverns pitch, Cephalid Coliseum, then turn 1 we draw for turn, play Emergence Zone, hopefully Mox on something else. I want to play Malcolm on turn 1 and then Adnaz on turn 2. If you assuming you don't use Lotus and you play Malcolm on turn 1, and then you can Adnaz on turn 2. Yeah, so you Gemstone pitch Talisman of Dominance and you bottom your Mind's Desire and you'll have Adnaz man on turn 2.
Yeah, yeah, that's a solid hand. All right.
Yeah, 6 great. Oh wait, this was a second 7, right?
I think
Or
it
was that
was.
a 6?
I think the first one was the Pier. I think that was our first 7.
Oh, so you don't even have to bottom anything. That makes it better.
That definitely makes it better.
Yeah. Odd.
Yeah, all right, so a fresh 7 with Flooded Strand, Dramatic Reversal, Mox Opal, Brainstorm, Cephalid Coliseum, Dark Writ, and Mystical Tutor.
Okay, so the Dark Writ makes me want to find a way to get to Adnaz mana.
With the
We're
Mystical
not
Tutor,
quite
especially.
there. Exactly. Those two
Yeah.
last cards are pretty cool.
Yeah, but the Mox
So-
Opal is really awkward.
Yeah. If I kept this hand, I'd be probably turn 1 Brainstorm into turn 2 Upkeep Mystical Tutor, perhaps. Which I don't love Mystical Tutoring for Adnaz if I don't immediately cast it, because
Especially because you don't have
then everyone
backup to
knows.
protect it. Yeah.
Yeah, the secret's out is the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I would.
So
This
hand's close, but no.
All right, second 7, we have an Island, an Enlightened Tutor, an Imperial Seal, a Frantic Search, a Peer into the Abyss, a Dark Confidant, and a Swan Song.
Island does not cast any of my cards other than Swan Song. Mulligan, let's go to 6.
Exotic Orchard, Morchard Pool. Oh wow, this is like 5 lands. Morphic Pool, Cephalid Coliseum, Sea of Clouds, Resculpt, Verdant Catacombs, LED.
We do technically have turn 1 Malcolm.
That's true.
It is not good enough here. We're gonna need cards to cast with that Malcolm mana.
Yeah.
So let's go to 5.
Yes. Sea of Clouds, Lotus Petal, Felwar Stone, Heliod's Intervention. What? Why is this card in here, Ben? Okay, pause.
Yeah. It's a card I'm testing to be able to remove several Ristics or Remoras at the same time, or deal with stacks. It's a card I'm testing. I'm not sure how much I like it yet. I like to experiment with my list, find what cards are good.
Yeah, that just threw me off. All right, so we're at 5. We have Sea of Clouds, Lotus Petal, Felwar Stone, Heliod's Intervention, Ancient Tomb, Flusterstorm, and Underground Sea.
So we're on 5, correct?
Yeah.
So this hand is one I'm happy to keep on 5. It's has fast mana.
Mm-hmm.
We have interaction and Flusterstorm, and we can
turn 1 Malcolm.
Play a turn 1 Malcolm, and then hopefully we can get a turn 2 Tymna. We can play a turn 2 Tymna post combat, which is not as good, but we're probably going turn 1 Malcolm, turn 2. I guess we're bottoming. We bottom at land and we bottom Heliod's Intervention. So we go turn 1 Malcolm, then we go turn 2 Felwar Stone holding up Flusterstorm, and then turn 3 we can play Tymna and draw a card. We have a Flusterstorm and we hope that gets us there, and hopefully we draw some gas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so definitely, it's not the best 5 I've ever seen, but it's definitely respectable.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how amazing turn 1 Malcolm is. Because if we go turn one Malcolm and then someone wheels us, we're just sitting on so much mana.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the chance of us getting wheeled is high.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, especially when the decks that you're looking at the table in our pretend scenario is blue farm, um,
Yeah.
and Kenrith probably runs wheels and an evolution. Absolutely, at least runs Wheel of Fortune and Windfall. Um,
Yeah.
all right, we'll do one more with our
Sounds
first
good.
7. Wishclaw, Selflid Coliseum, Cabal Ritual, Dark Confidant, Windfall, Mana Crypt, and a Swords to Plowshares.
So I keep most hands in this deck that have Mana Crypt. And that's because it plays turn one Malcolm. So we could just go turn one Malcolm, and then turn two, we could even like Cabal right into Wish. We could like play Wishclaw, and then we could Cabal right into Wishclaw. We could Windfall. We have so many options after you play turn one Malcolm.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
if you look at the deck, you see how many. If you look at this hand, you see how many options we have after turn one Malcolm. We just have so many options. We can do the world is our oyster.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this hand is gas. Especially if you top deck like an Underground Sea or something to give you a black source. Oh my god, so good.
Like
And
if
just
we're
getting
gonna miss our second land drop, we can always just windfall and refill our hands, and we still have a Malcolm in play and a treasure, and
yeah,
we make our land drop. It's just good.
yeah, definitely. All right, well, I think we'll call it at that one. But yeah, any other closing thoughts before we sign off?
Um, I strive to one day find out how much to Mulligan, and Mulligan more is all I have to say. Like I've said it once or twice, and I'll say it once or twice more.
Once or twice.
Like I always am happy to see when someone mulls to 3 and makes me feel better about how much I mulligan.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely think to help with all the different biases that we experience and we fight against in all the games that we play, that even if you're not like grinding in tournaments or everything, what I like to do is I like to keep a log of the games that I play with different decks. So like for my Omnath deck and for my Valky deck, I have a Google Doc where I write down what decks I faced, who won, what the about what turn it was, and like other different notes about what happened during the game, maybe like a hand that I kept or something. And with that is incredibly helpful to help you accrue that day, to actually see like what hands did work, what hands didn't work, what cards did you come up that felt like garbage. And so I definitely think that even if you're not trying to like be super competitive and be the best Magic player, I think it's a really great practice that will help you just make better decisions in a game, and actually see see the effects of mulling more aggressively, and learning about the plays that you've made and everything. Yes, absolutely. Mulligan more, damn it.
That's really all I'm trying to say with this whole video. Just mulligan more. Like
Small more.
we've given a lot of reasons to mulligan more, and hopefully one of them spoke to you.
Indeed. Expect you all to be keeping four card hands from now on. But yes, I am Sage. You can find me at Staff of Sage everywhere on the internet. I'm playing in a CDH weekly draft league called the MLC, Major League Commander. And today, actually, in fact, I just won a game with an insane opening hand with Bergie. It was a Snapkeep 7 for 7. It was good. It was so good. But yeah, so if you want to see the games that I play every week, follow me there. I post the schedule plus links of where to find the games. And you can also find me streaming generally weekly on Saturday nights on Mental Misplay, where we get really high and and play CDH, and it's a super good time at 9 p.m. Pacific on Saturday night. So this evening, in fact. And yeah, Ben, anything that you would like to shill?
Um, you can find me on Twitter on at benzelob, and you can sometimes find me on a couple of other people's streams. I like to crash people's streams, uh, kill them, and then come back. Just have a nice time.
Mm-hmm. And if anyone out there wants to get into CDH, wants to play, or wants a place to play, definitely hit me up on either Discord or Twitter, and I can potentially send you an invite to Founders Club, where we are both mods, where we have a absolutely fantastic community of players who are so helpful and so insightful, and are always willing to brew and concoct, and always looking for the next spice in decks. And it is a really great place to play. And would highly, if you're into competitive Magic, definitely message me, and we'll see what we can do to get you in there and get playing some games. But I think with that, we will call it. And yeah, have a great day, everyone.